Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We're just into the Scottish final for another derby, another day at Hampden booked, and it was, when it was all said and done, the dust settled, it was all about the end result at the end of it. I think that's what we're all telling ourselves anyway. It was full of highs and lows, twists and turns, everything else in between. We're here for the flagship podcast, and the Celts are here. I am Quinny, and I'm joined as ever by Josh. Josh, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail, and how are you surviving Hampden?
I don't know, honestly. It was. I thought it was going to be quite an easy afternoon. Lovely sunshine, and out after it for a couple of beers, and it would have been a nice wee day. But not to be very stressful. Come out of the game with almost a headache, a lot to chew over as well. So it was a very eventful afternoon, to say the least.
Yeah, and a game that probably took up all of your weekend as a result of how long it went on for. Back on the podcast, we've got Mehall. Good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
It was a very long day for those of us watching in Australia, let me tell you that. I think it finished at least midnight, and then, fuck me, there goes the algorithm.
Yeah, big time. I think, like Josh was saying there, he was expecting it to be an easy afternoon, and as soon as he said that, I had a wee member berry go off from last week's show where I was saying, I think Aberdeen are going to give us a wee bit of a problem here. This is their cup final. I think I went with a 4-2 prediction, which wasn't too far off. If Adam Ida could have...
Hey, Adam Ida scores if they give that goal.
Yeah. If you could have finished this dinner for us, that would have been home and hose. But yeah, definitely a dramatic game, very difficult one. And I think, like we said a few times on the podcast, the first goal dictates the tempo of our matches so much, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It was not the ideal start. Miowski getting in behind. I think actually, I've said this to a couple of people, Carter Vickers is at fault for the ball that gets in behind. You look at when Miowski gets there. Maybe you could point towards Joe Hart not coming off his line quick enough, but I think he does eventually get a touch in the ball, so he does do all right to go off his line. But not the ideal start for Celtic. But when you go 1-0 down in a game like that, it's the ideal time to concede. If you like to concede at any time, you like to concede 2 minutes in. And there's not really a sense of despair. So if it's against Rangers and you go down 1-0 2 minutes in, you're going to be very annoyed and gutted and at risk of not winning the game. But if it's any other team in Scotland, you're not too worried in that sense because you've got the confidence at Hampden or Celtic Park. If it's away, maybe not, but you've got the confidence that Celtic will bring it back. Well, they did, but then they lost 2 goals later on, but we'll get on to that later, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just thought it was real, just squared up in the sort of classic way. I thought it was actually quite a good goal from Aberdeen. Like a lot of Scottish teams messed that up, you know. Mm-hmm. They finished it well. I think Miowski, he'll score that a lot of the time. He's one of the better strikers. He doesn't play for us. But yeah, wasn't great from Carter Vickers. But also, you got to say that the other team did all right there and they're allowed to do that, you know. But I agree with you, Josh. I think I wasn't too worried. If you're going to concede after 2 minutes, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Plenty of time. And I just thought the way that we played Yang aside again in the first half, I never really was worried that we weren't going to come back. Much more worried about the way, I'm sure we'll come on to, that I'd like to say saw out the game, but we absolutely didn't. That bit, I can copying the first goal we score in the first 2 minutes that I can allow, but the later ones when we're trying to defend 3 yards out from our own line badly, yeah, less defendable, if you will.
Yeah, it was the game was in this weird kind of balance, wasn't it? Because even with Aberdeen taking the lead, and you know, we get possession and are looking to get back in the match and obviously go and get the goals that we go on to get. Aberdeen were always like that. You know, I was really impressed by so many of their players on the day. To be truthful, you know, Clarkson, Polvara, McGrath. I thought a lot of those guys really probably seen the best game of the season from that boy Duke as well, who was really good last year and hasn't really done much this year. So I thought, you know, like Celtic were very well matched in this game. And it was as big a test as we've had in a lot of different departments. You know, like we've seen McGregor coming back in for the start on this one alongside Scales. Both these guys had missed out last week. And again, we were talking about the kind of combos of like Iwata and the Rocky and what we kind of seen from both of them. And I think for the first goal, you really see the difference in Scales and McGregor in that side, because every team's targeting down the left for us because they all fancy their chances against Taylor more than they do Johnson, which I don't blame them. I would do the same. And, you know, the first goal for me just gets out of midfield too easily. And you see McGregor, if you watch the highlight bites, kind of like that, as the boys kind of skipping by him and everything. He's a wee bit too high in possession, and then it just gets the ball then over the top, and then Miowski runs over the whole line, basically. Gets one-on-one with the keeper and takes his chance really well. So, like, you know, it's Aberdeen, I thought, were I don't want to say the better team, but I was way more impressed with Aberdeen over the whole thing than I was with Celtic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we were bad, But I was like, wow, like they were really, and then their subs and stuff like that. You can say some of them are past it, but like I was like, they did not give us a minute really, and it wasn't like they were mad pressing us necessarily, but they were continuously like a threat to us. So I think a bit of credit to them, and what's the manager's name, Peter Levin or Levin or whatever. I thought was definitely on for it. But yeah, it was a weird balance of the game the whole way through because of that, because we did like have the possession, we did have the shots, the chances, in the way it went. But it was a very weird semi-final overall for me. The first kind of point we've got on it is thoughts on Liam Scales as a suspect for the 2 equalisers. I definitely think the second equaliser, he's I guess that's been brought up also because I'm the Liam Scales defender, as it were. But I think the second one, he definitely gets caught under the ball when you want to see him trying to meet that if possible. You can talk about the different defenders that are on at the time and all the rest of it. But the first one, as I say, I think it's like you said, Mehall, teams can play well. They can score goals sometimes. If they pick your pocket and they turn the ball over quickly, they've got a guy that's strong and fast. Doesn't work under pressure, then that kind of happens.
Yeah, I think you can do that, but what you can't afford to do is make the same mistake twice. And when you look at the 2 goals, eye on like they were, they're the exact same. Obviously, Liam Scales gets caught under the ball twice, and it's that back post we see it so many times with Celtic this season. Kilmarnock, we've seen it in Europe countless times over even the course of years. Celtic concede goals at the back post. It seems to be. I remember a game against RB Leipzig back in like 2018 when Kieran Tierney.
Can I beat you on that? Joe Ingeberger.
Malmo. There you go.
Goal he scored against us for Malmo. Which I don't know if it was before or after he played for us, but it was that exact goal. Lustig used to be really bad for it, but on the other angle, getting caught, especially in Europe.
It's a historical thing that seems to get us all the time, and I don't know what goes on training wise up at Lennox Town, but surely you find that if you're conceding the same ilk of a goal several times throughout a season, you've got to look at it and try and defend it better. I think Joe Hart can maybe come for 1 or 2 of them when you look at where the ball actually lands in the box on the head of like McDonald or Sockler got the other goal. Maybe that's an area Joe Hart should be looking to claim the ball. But it's disappointing, the fact it's just the exact same goal twice. See if it was 3-2 Aberdeen, 3-2 Celtic, and they got their other equaliser from like a long shot or something, you're not too angry, but it's the same goal twice and you can't afford. And for me, obviously you look at the Rangers results over the past couple of weeks going to the title race, you have a wee bit of confidence now that Celtic are 3 points clear with 5 games to go, but you look at the defending in some of that game on Saturday and it takes a wee bit of confidence out of you that this team can still very easily drop points if Celtic are hanging on at the end. They've got 3 games. If you win 3 games, you win the title. But if Celtic are hanging on at the end of any of these games, I'm not entirely confident in that defence holding out a 1-goal lead, if I'm honest. So things need to tighten up at the back for them.
So I thought there's 2 bits. There's one, which is the obvious, that Liam Scales got caught under the ball, which is a microcosm of what happens all the time, because even when that ball from the right or on top of him towards the back post isn't on, like he gets caught under the ball from just straight balls up the field all the time. And we were going on last week about how Nawrocki looked a bit shaky under them one. Obviously he's not played. I think he would get better at that. But that ball alongside of him, the one that Junior Hoylett, one of the great rhyming slangs of Scottish football, Junior Hoylett, the one that he missed was because Liam Scales took out Cameron Carter because he'd been caught under the ball again. So there's that, which I think is just something he does. I don't think he's very good. I think he's overrated as a defender, and I've been saying that as long as I've been on this podcast. So please bring back Mike Nawrocki. But again, when we had the ball, they just let him have it. Just, Liam, you can have the ball because you're going to lose it and you can't do anything with it. So again, what is this guy for if you can't defend and you can't start attacks? I did think actually it's interesting. The second goal, the first comeback, so not the Majewski one, the Jocko one. I thought Johnson is knackered and he should have crossed it, and then he goes up and sets up the third goal for us, which I generally was like, we should bring on Ralston here because like Johnson is completely gone. He looked absolutely knackered, and then he really didn't get out. There's no reason for that cross to come in at all, unless I don't think it was as much his fault on the third one, but. And he obviously did set up the goal for us in between, so you've got to give him that. Like, it's a lot easier in my experience of playing football to run forwards than it is to run backwards, put it that way. And also, like as soon as they came level, they went straight back to defending again. It was only when they had to chase it that they, it kind of makes you wonder what would happen if they did that more often.
Yeah.
Sorry,
one of the key frustrations for me I can't remember if it was the second or the third goal, the Aberdeen one, Luis Palma's clearance, and it just goes straight to one of the Aberdeen players. It's like his backs to the opposition goal, and he like tries this overhead kick to try and get either Paul Bernardo or Adamida in behind. 5 minutes to go in a semi-final. Okay, I understand that you're wanting to go and maybe try and get that 2-goal lead, but a big simple game management would tell you to at least try and get the ball down and retain the ball and play it to one of your fellow defenders, because I'm sure Iwata would have been making a run, potentially Johnston out at right back. He could give the ball to them and Celtic keep the ball from there, because Aberdeen will eventually retreat and get back in if Celtic look to get forward in a counter-attacking way that way, instead of just putting it ball over and giving it straight away.
I thought that looked like the sort of thing that you'd do if you're really, really tired, except you don't just come on.
Exactly.
It's the sort of thing the last 5 minutes when you've been running for 150 minutes and you think, just punt it up the field, and then you miss hit it and he comes back. Well, yeah, he'd only just come on. But yeah, I totally agree. It's not quite on the McGregor away at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago level of terrible pass late on, but it wasn't. I think that might have been mentioned by someone about Palma in the previous podcast. I
don't know if it was because it was a Hampden, but it gave me Stuart Armstrong versus England deja vu, and that same. Like, I don't think Armstrong was being like maybe as flamboyant about it as maybe Palma was. I just think he was unlucky more than anything. But with Palma, that is a wee bit of experience, isn't it? And like I wanted to play that ball and spring the counter attack and go and make it 4-2. At that point in the game, but you've just got to make sure. It, like you said, Mehall, it doesn't come back to you. That's experience, like if you
overhit it, if you overhit that and it goes out,
fine,
don't care. Up the other end of the field, you just can't underhit it.
It has to get through. It has to move in. You can't have it bouncing off them and they get the ball as a result. And because that's the most dangerous time is when everyone's thinking, right, we're stepping out, and then quickly the ball turns over, and then the space of 2 or 3 seconds, it's back in over the top of you. That's when people get caught out of position and all the rest of it. Alistair Johnston, I thought, was a real catalyst for us through this match, because you heard it in commentary, but we were definitely missing that ball to the byline. Michael Stewart wouldn't shut up about it, but it's like a wee bit frustrating in the sense that it feels like Alistair Johnston is the only one that's allowed to do that. But when he was, because Hampden's pretty big, and he was either defending and kind of covering like the likes of like McGrath or Clarkson, whoever was kind of out on his side. And then the good spells we had throughout the game, you've seen him much higher on the pitch, and he was making that run inside channel to the byline. And I thought he was the real swing for me. That's why I say, like, overall, I don't think like O'Reilly grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, or Hatate or McGregor or whatever. I thought actually, Alistair Johnston was amongst some other players, but I thought he was kind of the difference in the attack, the possession we had actually turning into something.
You can see it in Kuhn as well. You can see when you've got one player going wide and one player going the other way, then you've got suddenly Kuhn's a lot more dangerous. He's running one-on-one, right? God love Yang, right? He didn't play well at all again, but a lot of the time he's running at 2 guys, or he's running from a position of little advantage because Taylor's just stood inside of him because he's clearly been told Yang can't defend very well, so you can't go in front, you can't go beyond him. And I think I wouldn't want to blame Taylor individually for it, because I think he's doing what he's told. And you don't want to blame Yang for it, because Yang's being kind of left out to dry in a way that if you give that to Palma, like he will outside the foot here, he's got a bit more guile about him. And I don't think Yang's got any guile at all. He's kind of all physicality. So yeah, but he was worse than an empty jersey. Like on Saturday, he was an active drain on possession. Like every time he touched the ball, he lost it, which I don't know. I feel like it made James Forrest look very good when he came on, just because James Forrest did a kind of bang average. Actually, no, I'm being very unfair to James there, but I don't think he didn't have to play particularly well to look a lot better than the guy.
Yeah, he just done what a winger should do, and that is simply get the ball out wide, run at your man, either make a good decision to have a shot on goal or make a correct pass. And Yang couldn't do any of those when he was on the pitch. And James Forrest comes on and does that, scores and puts in a good performance. I felt Alistair Johnston improved when Forrest was on as well. They had a good relationship in the right, and that's how the third goal came, the O'Reilly one, which is actually a really good finish when you look at it. To keep that composure in the box, to find the top corner, there's bodies flying about everywhere at the stage of the game it was. It's full credit to O'Reilly for that, as much as he wasn't too impressive throughout the 90. But yeah, Forrest did look good. It'll be interesting to see how that wing situation goes. He kind of fluctuated between the left and the right when he was on. So obviously Kuhn was there when he initially was brought on, then Palma came on, so Palma moved to the left and Forrest on the right. But yeah, I thought Forrest had a good impact. But like you say, Mehall, you don't know whether is Forrest good? Like, is he the quality that Brendan Rodgers says he is, or is that just because Yang is so bad?
I put it this way, I think Palma starts at the weekend. I think it'd be very strange for him to turn to James Forrest now. But James Forrest, like, God love him, he'll know exactly what his role is in this team, and it's to come on in the second half and see games out. Like, if that's what he does, like, he's smart. He's always been a smart player. He's not as fast as he used to be, but he rarely makes many mistakes. He knows how to defend, all that sort of stuff. Like, if you've got one guy for 60 minutes and one guy for 30 minutes, James Forrest can definitely be the guy for 30 minutes and, win another title for Celtic. Yang is kind of the opposite, where like you would bring him on with 30 minutes to go if it wasn't going well and you wanted some chaos in the game, like, because he definitely is that. But God, that boy's got no end product, like, at all. And I don't know whether that's because of being double teamed or because he's low on confidence or just he doesn't have it.
That header, but he's had a few chances like that, but it's like it's a wee bit too green behind the gills. Where it's like a guy who's been playing football for this length of time should be able to connect by a header like that, once in a while and at least get on target, for Christ's sake. We've seen him have like that header. He's had 2 or 3 of them, I think, this year, this calendar year. I think with Forrest, I've always been a big defender of Forrest as well since he got that contract last year, because that, what we're talking about, that's exactly what, you want from him. Is you've got James Forrest on ice, he's going to give you that level. I put Ralston in that same category, maybe even Welsh falls into that over time. But you need these kind of character players, I think, in the squad that might not be the McGregor type, that they're the captain and they play every game, but you still need those kind of, those tertiary players in the squad that are living and breathing it, bleed green and white, and like Forrest just brings a level, just like been there, done it, and this is what it takes. Kind of similar to, I think we were chatting about what maybe Ida gives some of the other forwards, because he's maybe played at a different level and in some regards a higher level as well with some of the minutes he's had in that kind of way. So I think Yang, like, really, I think with some of the chances he is missing, he's undoubtedly going to get more minutes between now and the end of the season. And without him hitting like a hot patch, you really need to look to get that guy out the squads next year, quan him up,
Seriously,
don't get him out to Hibs or St Mirren or whatever.
I'd give him to St Mirren and he'll probably score 15 goals in the season.
Yeah.
I know, that's a much better player. Can I just make a point there on that James Forrest thing, this sort of culture thing? He's the anti-James Tavernier. Like, you want a guy, you want a guy who has won a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Who's knows how to win, got the mentality, all that sort of stuff. I know I love follows. I've mentioned many times. Like, as soon as they lose, they all go losers mentality. And you look at how many big games James Tavernier has lost and how many big games James Forrest has won. Is he a better player than James Tavernier? Not for me to say. Takes a damn good penalty, that boy. Gets plenty of them to take. But like, he wins big games. He's invariably on the right side of big games. James Tavernier is invariably on the other side.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Like, he does put his money where his mouth is in that respect. That even when he is called upon, like, he'll score. Like, he will actually do something, So
it's like consistency. I think it's like 14, 15 seasons in a row he scored for Celtic. And you talk about this ability to just come into the team and do well. It was proved last season. We played Hibs at home. We won 6-1. And he started the game, scored a hat-trick and come off after 60 minutes. He just brings that level. On Yang, obviously he missed a couple of chances at the weekend and he should do better. I think it didn't help him in terms of his play style, where he's constantly running into bodies. He lost the ball every time he got it. He was playing the left. I think he's much more effective when he plays on the right. Perhaps that maybe came into his performance a little bit at the weekend, but there still is no excuses for how bad he was.
I think he's only scored 1 goal and it was on the right.
Yeah, it was a back post header at home to Dundee. Yeah,
I'm going to say, he wraps his foot around it. The coming inside, it's a much more difficult skill to execute, to shoot. And I feel it's about Maida all the time as well. It's like, if you just got down the side and wrapped it across and let somebody else deal with it, you'd probably do a lot better. And I think that's what we did with Maida when he was at his best. I mean, he'd still be starting in this team if he was fit, but Harry Kuehl had him, you knock it past him, mate, you're fast enough, and then you just wrap it across. And I think somebody wants to tell Yang, you don't have to take 15 touches, mate, just run at them. You're fast. You'll be terrifying if you run at them, because you can go both ways and everyone will either foul you. He's going to get fouled, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Lots to be said if we could take a good set piece.
I was going to say, last thing I wanted to say on the wingers that started the game for myself was I thought it was probably one of the better games for Kuhn, like across like, the entire performance. I think you see in that game how efficient he is 1v1. Like when he's just got one guy to deal with, he'll take them out of the game and he'll do what he wants, whether it is playing another ball and zipping across, maybe taking a wee shot. Because some of the games, like if you think about the derby, and one or two other ones, like if he's get doubled up on, like we've seen him kind of limited, but in the bigger spaces that we had, the shape Aberdeen had, and then when we had Johnston support, like you've seen lots of chances for Kuhn to just set a guy up and kill them, basically, in attack in that sense. I'm surprised to hear you say you reckon Palma will start the weekend, but because surely does Forrest not start the weekend?
Nah,
I don't think he's consistent. I think it's Palma.
Yeah. I don't think Rodgers thinks Forrest has the fitness level to start. And if you start a game, you ideally want someone to play over 60 minutes. I don't think Rodgers sees Forrest having that level to go above the 60 minutes. And hence, Palma's probably the next best option because Yang's not going to start again after the weekend.
I don't think you can put on... Like, I think if you're going to play Lewis Palma as a starting, he's a bad guy at catching the pace of the game. Whereas I think James Forrest is a very good player at catching the pace of the game. Like, and I think within the, not that you're thinking about squad dynamics really at this stage, but like, I think Palmer is a guy, if he's going to be 10 men behind the ball, he's a much better player to have than James Forrest. Whereas later in a game when you want to see it out, Forrest very good, holds the ball, keeps it up the field, plays both sides as well, which Palmer doesn't do. So if you know you're going to have Kuhn, definitely he's going to start on the right, then pick Palmer on the left, and then you can, whichever one you want to bring off, then you can bring Forrest on first. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah. Not as much impact in this game, the semi-final, thinking ahead to the weekend now a little bit, I suppose. Not much impact we've came to see in recent weeks from the strikers, in fact. Kyogo and Ida, of course, not really fully bringing it to the party at this one. Thinking about Dundee away and obviously seeing the result that they had not too long ago, we were quite buzzing about ourselves, when they secured top six. It's not going to be an easy game. I think Kyogo, I was quite surprised to see him start like this. Like, I wasn't surprised, but I thought, okay, fair enough. I thought Ida might have had a shout because he came off the bench and scored obviously the week before. But he seems quite consistent with keeping Kyogo in there. So if it is Palma, Kuhn, and Kyogo, I don't know. I just always think now with Palma, maybe there's a wee bit of an angle for Ida because it's all about delivery, and Ida can maybe use that a bit better.
Yeah, I think Kyogo played a key role in the opener, but other than that, he didn't really do much. So it's his pressing that led to the shot and resultant rebound for Kuhn. Ida, I thought in the game Ida was poor. He had chances, he could have scored 2 or 3. The one where it got cut back and was blocked by Jack McKenzie. It was a brilliant block, but does he need that extra touch? Probably not. There was one, I think, where he swiped the air as well. Had a penalty shout. It's not really a penalty. And then right at the end of extra time, or it might have been right at the end of full time, I keep getting confused with the two just because how frantic the game was. They get free on the right-hand side, and Forrest was at the back post, and he crosses it in, and the cross just goes about to the corner flag. I don't think he'd have put in a performance that you wanted from him to have in the game.
He kind of did the stuff that you might want him to do. Like, I thought he held the ball up really well. Like, everything outside of the box was quite good. Like, if you wanted to play, what we clearly wanted to do was to play back to front, and he's good at that. He's much better at that than Kyogo is. I just think going forwards, like, for one, pick your best players, and Kyogo's a better player, and for two, do you need that player for the first 70 minutes against Dundee? Probably not. Like, who's more likely to open the scoring, unless it's a penalty, is Kyogo. Like, you want Dundee. If you're Dundee, you're afraid of a fast, smart player. You're not afraid of a big lump. Like, but in the last 20 minutes, you want a guy who can hold the ball, keep the line. Like, that's what he's there for.
One of the things that was making headlines coming out of the game was obviously Joe Hart stepping up to take penalty 5. I don't know if any of you follow me on Twitter at Quinny 3001. I actually tweeted this out as soon as the penalties get done. Because I was getting texts from people saying, who's going to be on the 5th penalty because of the subs we'd taken? Like there was no, I forget them off the top of my head, but there was only like 4 obvious penalty takers. And straight away, it was Big Man's birthday, I think, the day before as well. I was like, give penalty 5 to Joe, give it to him. And I had egg on my face and I was eating my words very quickly after he missed, obviously. He goes on to save the day. Not too sure how we feel about overall saving the last one. But, he takes us into the final and he had, some sort of a headline to make in the penalty shootout himself, didn't he?
Yeah, I was quite content with Joe Hart taking the penalty. You heard obviously the manager and players talking about it after the game. They were practicing them all week, and Joe was scoring them all week. And if he's doing that and an outfield player isn't, then I have no qualms with Joe Hart taking the penalty. I think a lot of people are interpreting it as, oh, it's a laugh, it's his last hurrah, things like that. It's not. Ederson took a penalty during the week for Man City, or last week he took one, so I was fine with it. And he missed, and you're allowed to miss. Two Aberdeen players missed, and an Aberdeen player hit the post. So it's nothing down to skill level or things like that. So I was absolutely fine with Joe taking the penalty. And he covers his own mistake, making the save. That's a good thing about the goalkeeper. They were saying it live when I was watching the highlights. They were like, well, at least he has the chance to make up for it because he's a goalkeeper. And he did. But other than Joe's and Paulo Bernardo's, all of Celtic's penalties were brilliant. Adam Ida's obviously missed one at Hearts. His was really good. Palma's was really good. Thought Tomoki's was probably the best out of the lot. O'Reilly's was good, and the rest of them were spot on. So fair enough to play as much. Celtic have had penalty problems this season. The majority of them in the show were actually quite decent.
There's the phrase that I heard today on. Are you aware of the phrase main character energy?
Yeah.
This was, I only learned this phrase recently, but it was used to describe Dibu Martinez in the Villa penalty shootout last week. That he was very, the way he's winding up the other team, blah, blah, blah. He's very main character. And I thought, I wish I'd known that phrase on Saturday because it would have been Joe Hart. Like, he's going to, the way that he was acting was real weird. Like, I don't see him as a great penalty saver. He's not quite Craig Gordon levels of rubbish, but he's not quite, Burridge.
Well, Joe Hart has saved some penalties from the football greats, by the way, don't you know? I was seeing on his birthday in the lead up to the semi-final highlights of him saving penalties from Messi, Ronaldinho, Ibrahimovic, all these great players over the last. So I actually had a wee bit of faith coming into the penalty shootout, having seen that the day before.
More faith than I would have had if it had been Craig Gordon, who I think saved one penalty ever. Although it was away. Got some real good niche Europa League kind of references today, but he had a bare shiver, he saved a penalty. My thought was you can have either. You can have Dundee United in a League Cup semi-final. Art Boris, the greatest penalty that's ever been taken. If you remember that from about 2000.
Yep, I do.
8, was it? Smashed it into the top corner. That was about 16-14 or something as well. I was there that night. And what was the other one I was going to say? It's completely gone from my head. Sort of terrible penalty shootout references of. Oh no, Chadu Ree scores an own goal in Rennes. I was there in 2010, and he's laughing his head off. And Joe Hart misses a penalty to win the shootout, and he's laughing his head off. I was just like, he just sort of was like, oh well. I was like, well, no, not oh well. It's half past midnight, and I'm knackered. And I can't emotionally deal with this. Can you? How about you just score, you bastard? Like, Boris would have buried that. So yeah, that I wasn't. When Chardary laughed at his own goal, I generally thought it was funny, but I had about 20 beers at that point. 2 goals of Buckfast. Whereas this one, I was just sat at home, really tired. Just like, could you please score so I can go to bed and I don't have to sit through this torment anymore. But did you so I was amazed at how good our penalties are. For a team that has missed like 50% of the penalties he's took this year, I'm looking at them going, so suddenly you can all take them. So all these ones where we just missed, every single one of them I thought has missed a penalty at some point this year. But I was doing the same thing as you, Quinny, where I was like going, okay, O'Reilly scored one last week. Palma has at least taken him. Ida's pretty good. Bernardo's got a high technical level, so I suppose he can take a penalty. And then I'm going through the Aberdeen list going, well, I don't know, we're probably better than them. It's like I haven't seen Esther Stocker take a penalty before. He only vaguely, exists in my world. But Jamie Maguire, I thought he'll take a penalty. But there's many of them where I'm just thinking, would you back our players against their players? Because whilst I have no confidence in ours, I've also got zero confidence in theirs. And I thought theirs were pretty good as well, to be honest. It was only obviously the ones there's only 2 types of penalty, right? Good ones and bad ones. But I don't think theirs were particularly bad either. The ones that they scored all look very easy compared to having watched the Real Madrid Man City shootout in the week, where several of them were rubbish.
Yeah. Joe could have saved a couple of theirs, to be fair. I think there was one he just missed that went under him at one of the first or second Aberdeen penalties. But on the whole, very surprised with how good Celtic. I mean, you could see they were probably doing their work in training. Alistair Johnston's, even for a right back, his penalty was really good in the bottom corner, set keeper the wrong way. So hopefully, hopefully we don't need penalties in the final. But if we do, then we know we've got some decent takers in the squad, I guess.
Well, they've only got one penalty taker, so
Yeah, that's true.
Who's going to take the other 4? Contaminate, take them all. Nobody else has took a penalty from him in about 10 years.
No, not since
And he's a
Seville.
bottle job, so he'll miss it anyway.
Not since
He'll miss
Seville.
his. Yeah. Oh, God.
That's in there in Seville. There's some great edits of the Joe Hart penalty going around, and it cuts to Ramsey.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, they were very good. I was going to say, I'm going to go on record at this point and say when we get to the final, I will back Joe to take another penalty. No problem at all.
Yeah,
maybe not number 5, maybe number 6 or 7 if it gets there. But maybe not 5.
Definitely, 100%. Cameron Carter said after the game he hadn't seen Joe miss one in training, and he'd never seen Joe Hart miss a penalty before.
So can I point this out, right? That's all well and good, but he will have been taking them against Benji Siegrist. So, yeah, but everybody else is taking them against Joe Hart, but he's taking them against Benji Siegrist, who is, as far as I know, not a footballer.
That's true. Siegrist was very passionate full time, if you've seen. But at the same time, counter argument to that, Joe Hart's wasn't actually saved. It hit the post. So if Siegrist was in goal, he still wouldn't have saved. Yeah.
I suppose no one
saved it. Or was he taking them against Cameron Carter? Because here's a real old school one. Can you remember, is it Ed Mielson, who missed the World Cup that Brazil won in 2002 because he was fucking around? No. When they were doing penalty shootout practice, he was playing in goals and he ended up breaking his collarbone or something. That was great injuries at that time.
That sounds like the most Celtic injury I've ever heard as well, by the way.
That was the same. He missed the World Cup for Brazil, and the same World Cup I think that Canizares missed because he slipped on a bottle of aftershave. So he said.
Yeah, that's it.
So he said.
Who was it? Just while we're on this little tangent of random injuries, who was it that got speared at training with one of the salmon poles?
Oh,
John McGinn's brother, no?
At Celtic?
No, I don't think it was at Celtic. I wish it was at Kilmarnock. Maybe St Mirren. Or
was it John McGinn's brother? I can't remember what his name is. McGinn.
Stephen
McGinn. Paul McGinn.
Stephen or Paul, one of them. Was it one of them? I thought maybe Motherwell. Yeah, I was going to say I've got Stephen Fletcher in my head, but it must be Stephen Thompson and St Mirren.
Oh, aye. Yeah, I remember that.
Aye. Just random thing came into my mind there. So, like, semi-final, it was fun while it lasted. Yes. And, the final's booked 25th of May, which is a holy day in the Celtic calendar, as we know. So, it's an omen and all that good stuff, But it is, it's all but done. We still need to go out there and do our job for the remaining games. And, the league is the number one thing. And we get back to business, as it were, this weekend away to Dundee. We've kind of touched on the game and kind of skirted around some of the different positions. I think, like, the scales angle on the semi-final, I don't think we really went into that in too much detail. So we're talking about the goals in general and the team and all the rest of it. But does Scales retain his place coming into Dundee? Because, again, we're thinking about a team, different style of play. It's not the same size of pitch or quality of pitch, for that matter, So, is that maybe one of the positions we maybe are overlooking this weekend?
I don't think Scales should have come back into the team at Hampden, but he did, and Brendan clearly trusts him and likes him, and I think Scales is going to play every game between now and the end of the season unless he gets injured or suspended. Whether we agree with that or not, that's just the way it is. It seems to be the pecking order is Carter Vickers, Scales, Nawrocki, Welsh, Lagerbielke, and that's the way it's going to stay unless there's injuries, in my opinion.
I wouldn't have played him in August. Still don't play him now. But he's rubbish. He should be playing for Aberdeen. If we'd been playing for Aberdeen, I'd have said, good job. He's playing for Aberdeen, not for us. Please don't. But he will. Brendan's got this thing. Do you know, like the trademark Mr. Burns change of heart, right? Where Neil Lennon used to do this. Before every big game, he'd be like, we're going to play, Jose Samaras as left winger or whatever. But I think Brendan Rodgers has always had his project. He likes having one guy who he thinks, Mario Balotelli, I feel like he did that with him maybe at Liverpool. Am I imagining that? Where he likes to have one guy where he's going to be like, okay, I shall resurrect this terrible footballer. And you are looking at it with Liam Scales, and I just think Brendan is big braining this when actually, he's a very good reason he signed a centre half for 4.5 million from Legia Warsaw, and he's decided to go with his ginger kid from St. Pat's or Shamrock Rovers. I can't remember who he played for. St. Pat's, I think.
Maybe Adam Ida, not that guy, but like the Scott.
No.
Sinclair
Adam Ida is
Rusty
half
Maroons.
of this. He is half of this. Liam Scales is that guy. There's no way he would still be playing unless Brendan Rodgers wasn't trying to make a point about something else. Like
No, Scales has been quality, mate. Honestly, you're blind to his supernatural powers of defending.
I'm
nothing gets by
he
him.
can't defend, and he definitely can't pass, which is most of the problem. Is that
He can kind of pass. He can kind of pass.
Passing, right? See when he plays out for the back, right? And there's like it goes from Joe Hart to Carter-Vickers to Scales, etc. He does you get a sense of nervousness when he's on the ball that you don't get when it's a Carter-Vickers or a Nawrocki. And some of his passing, yes, plays it inside, goes back to the keeper, invites pressure. It isn't good. But some of the ones he enjoyed this early in the season. He played it a lot. It's the ball in behind the defence for whoever was playing left wing.
There was one real good run at the weekend. I'll give him that. And Kyogo maybe missed, but it was a real good pass.
So he does do a couple of them, and listen, his defending is a bit suspect at times. On the whole, is he a starting quality Celtic centre back? No. But is he a centre back who could be doing the role Stephen Welsh is doing at Celtic right now? Yes, I would say so. Because number one, versatile, he can play left back, he can slot into left centre back in a back five comfortably. The left-footedness, I've just made that word up, but he's left-footed. So he has that in his locker as well. So he does have some attributes that you want that could keep him as a squad player at Celtic, but personally for me, he's not a starting quality Celtic centre-half.
Yeah, he should be absolutely nowhere near, like barely in the Aberdeen team. But yeah, I've me and Quinny are never going to agree on this. He's real bad. You don't need to take my word for it. Just watch every team play against us because they go, do you know what, Liam? You can have the ball. We're not afraid of you. And they wouldn't do that to Nawrocki. And I think the only thing he's got going for him is that he's left-footed. But if you play with an inverted left back, which is what Craig Taylor always wants to do, I don't think that matters as much anyway. Yeah. The angle is not as big an issue as if you want your left back to go on the outside, then it helps to be left-footed. But we don't have Greg Taylor's not allowed to run past Yang, so that is a problem.
I can't wait till Liam Scales thunderbolts in the winner against Rangers on the 11th of May, and we come back here on this podcast the week after.
Company style.
I don't know if we've mentioned this, but that is on my birthday, and so I will. It's 9 p.m. kickoff on my birthday, so to my knowledge, we have never played Rangers on my birthday, so I'm looking forward to it.
That should
be got my hopes up.
The last one was on my birthday, the 3 each game, so it was.
Ooh.
If that bodes well, to be fair, I'd take a draw for still 3 points clear to win.
And Quinny was born on May the 25th, right?
No, not this time, sorry.
So
Patrick's Day for me.
Yeah. True.
I think you're quite right. Scales probably does just come in to finish the season off because he has quality. He's got a good partnership on the go with Carter-Vickers so far this season. And I think can you do better? Yeah, but I think Nawrocki does give you something like we spoke about last week. Where I don't need to rehash it too much, hopefully, but I think he does give you something on the ball that Scales clearly doesn't. He's not that comfortable having 10 seconds on the ball, and traveling and making his mind up and. Will I move this way? Will I move that way? Then who'd I pass to? If you get me. But I think as much as he will come back in now and probably retain his place regardless for the remainder of the season, the same is probably true for Callum McGregor. And that lovely balance in midfield that we struck in his absence is probably gone until the last 5 minutes of the games now.
Yeah, I don't think he should play McGregor the weekend. I don't think he looked fit, didn't look up to it. I thought you saw a difference when Tomoki Iwata came into the team. Maybe he's getting rushed back too quickly, McGregor, I don't know, but like you say, Quinny, I think he's back in now. He's not going to drop him next week, which is a shame for Iwata because he has been playing well and he just brings that stability to the midfield that perhaps McGregor doesn't, and maybe they need to look at how quickly they're rushing him back, so I think it's too quick.
I think we've played him, he's going to keep playing.
Yeah.
I think that issue was the fitness. But you touched on it briefly before, Quinny, but that midfield for the first goal was wide open, and I'm now officially worried about Callum McGregor's ability to cover that space. And you can see that Iwata he isn't as good on the ball, but he does cover it. And again, I think a little bit like the Palma thing, like what you can say is that you can play McGregor for 60 minutes when you're going to have most of the ball, and then bring on Iwata for the other 30 when you might not have as much. That kind of makes sense to me, because I think he is better on the ball. But I just wonder going into next season, where, especially against better teams in Europe, like whether he's got the legs to do that anymore, because we learned the hard way with Scott Brown about what happens when you let your best player in midfield, get old overnight. And it's the hardest part of that game is that part of the game is getting about the pitch. And I don't know that he was always that good at it. Like, it's never been his best quality. So I wonder if he needs to have someone next to him in that. Now, I would give him the benefit of the doubt of the weekend, because he was fresh back, and he is good with the ball. That's what he's there for. So again, Dundee United away, I don't think on a small pitch it's probably not going to be a big problem. But yeah, I would flag that one early as something that is going to be a problem in the future.
You really want McGregor in that Hatate role, don't you? Like that's where his qualities are best. You've got that bodyguard behind him, and then someone else to play off of.
Yeah, just to mention it as well, Bernardo, I think that's going to be if he signs anyway, that'll be his role. Is that he's very much what's the phrase, the water carrier. I feel like that's where he can do that. He can cover space. He's got a pretty good engine. Like him and Iwata, that's there. They can do that. If you play them alongside McGregor, I'm less bothered about McGregor's issues, but I think he needs to either move forward or, definitely not play at the base of midfield against good teams or on big pitches.
In terms of the wing dilemmas coming into the weekend, you guys both seem pretty set on Palma. That was kind of my gut coming into the weekend, to be honest with you. But I don't know, when I woke up this morning and when we were chatting about him earlier, I'm just thinking, this could be a game Forrest starts, really. Like, it could be, you get 60 minutes out of Forrest and then you get 30 minutes. Because as much as we don't think he's got the fitness to play from the start most of the time. Like you said, last season he started against Hibs and got a hat-trick. So he's it's not beyond his abilities, I think, at the age of 32 to come in for what would be probably his first start since Lazio. First start in the league since St Mirren.
Yeah, I would like
the weekend of November.
Yeah, I would like to see Forrest start the game. I think he deserves to start. But I just think Palma gets an odd simply down to the fitness. But you never know. Forrest, they could probably last 60 minutes here at Dundee. Listen, it will be a tough game, but it's a game he could last 60 minutes in. Just the thing is, do you give Forrest this run in the team? So if you start him on Sunday and he scores, he automatically probably starts the next game against Hearts, and then you don't really want to change the team before you play a derby. So then you're kind of leading into the Rangers game, and do you really want Forrest starting that game? I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't, but I don't know what you think.
That's exactly my thoughts. Like, I think you pick the team obviously you've got to win every game that's in front of you now, but if you have a choice where it's 50-50 between Forrest and Palma, for example, you think, who would I rather play against? Rangers? Palma, definitely. Who do you want to play against 11 men behind the ball? Probably Palma. Like, I just think that and it's very Ange Postecoglou, but he loved the idea of a finisher, and I think he's a much better. If you're winning and you want to maintain, then you can bring Forrest on. You don't lose anything. If anything, you shore it up from Palma. Whereas if you're losing, he can offer you something different. Whereas I don't know that Palma has that. I think he has to start. And if you need a goal, great, bring him on. But if you want to see the game out, I'm not sure Palma's that dude. So you've got and he can only play one side of the field that we've seen anyway. Though he did score against Atletico from the other side of the field, I suppose. But he, I think you are much better off starting him for 60 minutes, especially with this concern about Forrest's fitness. And Palmer's obviously coming back as well. But if you can get 60 minutes into him now, then you can get 70 minutes into him next week, and you're good to go for the derby there. So if there's a fitness question, I think it's Palmer's.
Yeah. I agree overall, but it's just you never know. I say he does like Forrest. He does love that resurrecting career. Does love the best winger at the club and all that kind of jazz. So in the absence of Maeda for, I think we feel the rest of the season, maybe see him for the last match days. Maybe some of the rumours going around now. But yeah, it's all kind of building up to the last derby as we see. But yeah, I think normally we normally finish the podcast off with a score prediction. I think I was kind of close last week, but coming into Dundee away this weekend with the famous result they've had quite recently, I think it is going to be quite a tight affair. But again, I think like this sort of game, I would normally be going into thinking, we should be thinking about scoring 3 or 4. I don't know if it's going to. I don't think we'll have that many. I think it'll be a bit tougher than that. I think this game's probably going to finish 2-1 or something like that, maybe 2-0.
Did we not thump Dundee last time we played them at theirs? Did we not beat them?
3-0 it was. Mikey Johnson.
We needed Mikey Johnson off the bench to get 2 at the very end of the game. That's maybe where my worry comes from, perhaps. But yeah, I don't think it'll be easy. We've spanked them 7-1, but 28th of February at home, which is maybe where you could get extra optimistic because that's very recent.
I mean, look, if we can't beat Dundee,
yeah, we'll beat them. But it's I don't think it's.
What I'm going to say? I say 3-1 every single week. I think it's always going to be 3-1.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough. The way they played against Rangers, they're in the top 6 for a reason. You seen them at Pittodrie a couple of weeks ago, just before the split. They're a good, well-drilled side. They've got a really good midfield trio of McCowan, Lyle Cameron, and Mo Silla. Bakayoko's a really good striker. Beck's out injured at the minute, but their defence is good. John McCracken, the goalkeeper, was arguably man of the match when they played Rangers a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to be a really tough test. The pitch isn't great, as we know. And like you were saying, Quinny, we took Mikey Johnson getting a brace off the bench the last time we played there. So it's going to be tough. Every game, though, is tough in the title race. As long as Celtic aren't holding out a 1-goal lead in the last 15 minutes and 2 goals up, 3 goals up, then I will be happy. But at the same time, any win will do, because win the next 3 and the title is Celtic's.
I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're going to the game, have fun, travel safe. Yeah, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hail, hail.
Hail, everyone.
Cheers.